Welcome to Tech Abilities, produced live in the Blind Abilities studio. I want to thank all of you for listening and for sending in your feedback. It's well appreciated. And if you want to send us some feedback, give us a call at 612-367-6093. Leave a message. We'd love to hear from you. Or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the tech tidbits and news that we cover in this episode. And you can use chapters. If your podcast player of choice has the chapters feature, go ahead, nibble away at this episode, or take it all in one big meal. That's the way it was designed. And chapters work good, and we love to make that feature available. So without further ado, let's get this show started.
Know some of your quick nav keys, how to navigate tables, and if the first thing that you try doesn't work, if you know how to sort of problem solve your way, like, well, I didn't find it this way, what if I try this way?
Oh man, that's gonna kill me. Hold on just a sec, my son's Alexa's going off. Alexa! Alexa! Alexa!
Ring, just like an accordion.
I'm sorry, I just love Gmail so much.
Good conversation, though.
I did enjoy that.
I did too.
What's that static? What are you doing, Jeff?
Playing with his gizmos again.
Oh, you can hear that?
Yes.
I didn't know you could do it from that screen.
Me neither.
From the App Store, if you're going through the list ready to update, you can flick up and it'll say delete, and it'll say all your data and everything is going to be gone.
So amazing.
Oh, man.
Make sure that you know your assistive technology.
Yeah. All right, I'm about to yell at my son. Give me 2 seconds.
All right.
Trey, I'm recording. Turn it down. I'm recording.
Serena?
I'm back.
Great mom voice.
Oh, I'm good at it.
There you go.
He knew I was recording too, and he's having like a dance party in his room.
Uh-huh.
Trey, I'm recording.
Let's just get going and see what we get.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Live from the Blind Ability Studio, I'm Jeff Thompson from friendly Philly, Minnesota. I'm doing just great.
You asked yourself how you were doing.
How am I doing? Live from the Blind Ability Studio, I'm Jeff Thompson, and with me in the studio is Serena Gilbert. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff.
And Jesse Boom Boom Anderson from St. Paul, Minnesota. Welcome to the show.
I don't think he likes that nickname. I don't know.
He's a drummer. Boom boom. Shh.
Yeah. No, I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. When you get that stuff recorded a little bit, we'll have to get some transitions like do-do-shh, do.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, we could do like Seinfeld, but with a drum instead of a bass. Something like that.
So it's 10% different,
Yeah. Lisa Salinger called in, and she's not doing well. And when she called in, I thought it was my watch screwing up because I answered it on there. It was her. She didn't sound good at all, so she won't be here. And Raqi G out there in California, well, she's still out there. She didn't make it to the studio today, but we're here because we have nothing else going on except for fixing walls that cars crash through, right, Serena?
Yeah. So you can't just throw that out there and not So what happened on Labor Day in the Gilbert household is my husband was working in the backyard doing his lawn work, all good. I was upstairs doing some things, and all of a sudden we hear this extremely loud noise. I thought a plane crashed or something, honestly, and I run downstairs and my husband said that a car drove through our fence, which is made out of stone, and my neighbors came and checked on us, and they described everything that was in the yard for me. There was an engine, a couple wheels, an axle, and I don't even know how many pieces of concrete. So we're dealing with the aftermath of that right now. Yeah,
that's crazy because, to go through not just like a wooden fence, but a stone, you got to be going at a pretty good clip there.
Yeah, he apparently spun a couple times and hit the wall and was spinning as he hit the wall.
So did you just turn around and say, oh, I thought it was a plane, and go back inside?
No, I was the one that had to call emergency services.
Oh, wow.
Which is stressful, and it's because I don't know if you've ever had to call emergency services, but when you're blind, it's kind of difficult because they're like, okay, well, how old is the victim? What's his license plate? And you're like, I don't know. So I'm just yelling across the yard, like asking questions,
Right.
Yeah, not too many blind people give audio description. I mean, if they could, it'd be nice, but,
Yeah, crazy. I mean, you saw the picture that you had sent him, like, oh, wow, yeah, that's pretty messed up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you guys didn't get hurt, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we are, I put on that Facebook post that I put out there, like, we are convinced that there are some guardian angels looking over this family because you guys are going to laugh. So there's a couple of ironies here. So I had been nagging my husband to edge the front of our yard. I was like, I don't like the way it looks. It's messy. Could you edge it? So he actually listened this week when he cut the grass, which took about an extra 10 minutes. Then he went to the back and had already cut it and was going around doing like the weed control and stuff like that. Had he not edged it from me nagging him, he would have been in the back part where the wall was completely destroyed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's super. I was like, so my nagging has purpose.
No, we can't let that out there, though. Nagging is bad. We can't let that secret out there. No.
It saved his life. That's what I'm
I know.
I'm going to start throwing that out there. Like, my nagging saved your life, dude. No.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that mom voice we heard at the beginning of the show. Yeah, kind of like that. I'm recording.
That sounded like a Southern accent, Jeff. I did not have a Southern accent.
Well, Rocky's not here, but she was going to talk about something that's going on right now at the Adaptation Store out there in California at the San Francisco Lighthouse for the blind and visually impaired. Canes, cane tips, all the cane stuff on sale. So check it out, adaptations.org. I just slide that right in there. And we're moving on because Apple, September 14th, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 9 Mountain time. No, that'd be 11 Mountain time.
You're doing your math so backwards over there.
Central time. And way out there where Lisa,
yeah, wait half the day.
No, it's always lunchtime when they usually have them, so it's usually one of those lunchtime streams.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited, but I haven't seen too much excitement. I mean, so much stuff has been coming out, leaked out, and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, okay, here it comes, but it'll be here.
I don't know. I know some friends of mine are pretty excited potentially about like the new watch and like the new design and different things like that. And I don't know. I'm not too sure. The phone, like I'm torn because I have the XS Max and it's still running really well, like depending on how iOS 15 runs on it, if it ends up slowing down or whatever. But I mean, the battery is still pretty good and it runs well. You know, even like the LiDAR stuff, like, yeah, there was some buzz about it when it came out, but like there doesn't really seem to be a whole lot that I really need to rush out for that. And I'm not really feeling a lot of hype for the new phone, so I don't know if I'm going to upgrade or not this year. I'm not sure.
That's what Jeff said last year, Jesse. Jeff said all these things. I bet if he pulled the recording from last year, he said all of these things, and then the next episode, he was like, so...
I was on the fence last year, too, and I was sort of intrigued, especially when Seeing AI talked about their LiDAR stuff. I'm like, I should get one, and then I'm like, nah, I can wait another year. So, yeah, I just don't know.
I'm sporting a 12 Pro Max, and Serena, you're in the 12s, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I have the 12 Pro, and I tend to upgrade when the form factor changes. That's usually how I go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm typically on a 2, and I will slide on this one because I might be eating these words, but I don't see myself doing it again because my phone's working like a charm, and iOS 15 beta is working pretty good right now. There's one thing that is just bugging me a little bit, and I just got to say it. You know, when you go to your app switcher and you're flipping through it, going back, you want to go back 5. Well, after you go back about 3, then it says active. But if you go back to the other way, then it'll say the name, and it's like,
That's frustrating.
And the other thing is in the share sheet, when it pulls up, usually it says AirDrop, and then it says like Tech Abilities or Serena or Jesse or something like that. Now it just says picture.
Oh, annoying.
So now they've changed it. It said, it used to say, what was it saying before? Contact or something? Like it was something else generic.
Not sure.
Yeah.
The last cycle. I remember you had said it was pretty frustrating before. This might be the first year that I don't upgrade to the new operating system on the day it comes out.
It's not bad.
No, from what I played of it on the iPad, it seems pretty decent. It sounds like your app switcher thing. It sounds like what's doing is because you can visually see like 2 to 3 different things things on the app switcher visually, but when it's panning to something that's not visually on the screen, until it's visually there, it's not registering the label for some weird reason. That's what it sounds like to me.
For those who can't see, it's like if you're holding like 3-4 cards in your hand, like playing a card game like Uno or something. And Uno does not sponsor the show, so I'm not getting any perks here.
You're not getting any kickbacks from Mattel.
And you're just kind of flipping through the cards, and that's what happens when it slides. So it just says active. It's a minor thing. Functionality-wise, production-wise, everything's working really good. I really like it. I'm not into the focus aspect of it. It's just too confusing because I'm at home. Yes, I'm at work, I'm doing work, but I'm still at home, so I still need to know if the furnace guy is going to stop by. I don't want to wait for that notification for my break time. I'm not at work where none of that stuff would pertain to me, but being at home, I still have the dogs. I still have everything else. So I can't use focus and get away with it.
I saw another article. There was several features that they were talking about at the WWDC that actually aren't going to make it to said launch. You know, one of the major ones, like you're not going to have the wallet thing, like the wallet ID thing. You're not going to have the FaceTime video share thingy where you can like share and stream media together. Like that's not working super well apparently. So they're not putting that in. And there were like 3 or 4 other little things that weren't going to be in the release. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's
a little bit of lackluster, but I tell you what, compared to 13, Serina, you had some problems right off the bat and she went back. To me, this one hasn't really impacted me in any way that I weathered it pretty well. So if anyone wants the public beta and stuff like that, it's going to be here. So hang on.
I know every time that they release a new model, they always have, they basically half their keynote is bragging about how good their cameras are. But like if they have some sort of new image stabilization and things, and as much as I use my camera for using the magnifier app or even sometimes doing like YouTube videos, I do use my camera a fair bit more than I actually thought I would when I started using the iPhone, especially now. But especially if they do like a really good image stabilization and clarity increase for the magnifier, I already really like how well the magnifier app works as a portable CCTV. I use it pretty much on a daily basis. So if that's better, that could be tempting.
I think you would have liked the 12 Pro Max then, because that was the biggest thing that was different between the Pro and the Pro Max was the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is I would get the Pro Max series of the 13 anyway because I like big, I like the better cameras, and I'm greedy, so I want more battery.
Jesse, Phil and Tim told me it's the best camera ever.
Of course it is.
Because they're always correct, right?
But is it magical?
Innovative.
Aluminium.
The best camera yet.
Astonishing.
What do you think the word of the keynote will be?
Groundbreaking.
My money's on revolutionary.
Revolutionary.
Oh, I'm sure that'll be said at least a few times.
Last time we talked about Comply. They're the tips for the AirPod Pros, and I love them. And Serina, you got a set. How do they feel?
I did. I got the set, and it's kind of annoying when you end up knowing what size you need. But I got the set that has the 3 different ones because I was like, I'm really not sure, and I'd hate to get the wrong ones. And on the regular AirPod at your tips, I've been wearing the mediums. But on the Comply ones, the mediums were falling out of my ear. So it's weird. So I used the large ones, and it's interesting. Like, I can still feel that they're there for sure. But I might need to change it out on the, I might have 2 different size ears, might be the problem. But they stay in, and then like sleeping in them, they don't do this weird thing where like on the regular silicone ones, if you'd lay a certain way, you'd get that weird feedback if you laid on the transmitter. Oh. It's jarring. Like, you're like, oh God. And that doesn't happen with the Comply tips. Like, it hasn't happened not even once. The only thing that I'm having a little bit of trouble with is sometimes I don't put the left ear back in the charger all the way, and then I'll go to try to use them and it'll be completely dead. And I'm like, dang it. So that is something to be aware of.
Oh, really? Oh, I suppose a lot. Yeah, I'm using the medium.
Because they're a little bit bigger. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And since they're foam, they're not as like pliable as the silicone.
Sure.
The thing about, your left ear and your right ear, one being different, it's hard to tell because when you look at your right ear, you have to turn real quick and look at the left to compare, and it's just, you can't compare that well.
Oh, stop it, John. Oh my goodness. So silly.
Yeah, I'll put a link for the Comply in there if people are, looking for some alternative to the silicone tips.
Mm-hmm. They are much easier to put on and off than the regular Apple ones too.
I like them. When I just even when I put them in my hand to put them on, it's like, hey, because there's some substance there rather than the spring-loaded ones that are just kind of spongy. They're not spongy, they're just flimsy. Or I don't know.
Yeah, silicone-y.
Well, they work good. They work fine. But these, I think, Apple should take note. It's like, hey, Tim.
They should really use some like memory foam or something in their next ones because the silicone's not cutting it.
Yeah, but you're probably better off getting the third-party ones anyway, because if Apple would do it, they would charge 3 times as much.
Oh, so. Yeah, but they aren't. Doesn't that mean they're better?
We all know we're buying the next AirPods, so.
I'm not.
The AirPod Max. The next time there's the AirPod Pro 2, I'll totally be getting them. I don't know when they'll come out.
I don't like earbuds.
Yeah, you don't like in-air stuff.
Nope.
Have you guys ever, when you go to your update list, like you might have 10 updates and you flick through what's updating and stuff, and you ever stop and go, I never use that anymore. You can just flick up and you can actually delete it from your phone, but do you?
I didn't know you could do that. Nor do I ever go to my updates list because I just have automatic updates on. Because I had it off and then I would never update. So I was like, this is dumb. I don't want to. Yeah.
43 updates.
No, it'd be like 115.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was just like, screw it. It's just automatic. I don't care anymore.
I didn't know you could do it from that screen.
Me neither.
From the App Store, if you're going through the list ready to update, you can flick up and it'll say delete. And it'll say all your data and everything is going to be gone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's kind of neat.
I need that trick. I have so many apps. Does it let you after they're updated too? Like when you go through to see you're recently updated? Because that would be so helpful.
Well, that's a good question. I could pull that up right now.
Because I have so many apps that I'm just too lazy to go through and delete.
Oh, I know. I have well over probably 300-400 apps on my phone. It's ridiculous.
And you probably use, I think I use maybe 10 of them.
On a regular basis, I'd probably use, let's go with an even dozen. But, but yeah.
Blind abilities, podcast with a blindness perspective.
So we go to
App Store.
App Store.
Yep.
App Store. Today, Wednesday. My account button.
My account.
Personalized recommendations button. Updated recently. Uber Eats. Food delivery. Today, we update the Uber Eats app as of
I don't
delete.
use that app.
Activate. If delete.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
delete.
Oh, yeah.
Activate. Delete.
I'm totally gonna go through there and do a massive delete.
I did not know you could do it from
That's
there.
awesome.
That's kind of sweet, actually.
Yeah, so you can just go straight down your list.
Messenger. Today, we update
Here's
our
Messenger.
Delete.
Delete.
Activate. Default.
Don't delete that. I send
No.
you sound emojis.
It's a quick way instead of going to your apps and going all the way through all
that's way quicker.
the matrix.
I like that.
I
Yeah,
like it too.
It's a quick way of doing it, and it's
How'd you
solid.
discover that? Was it like an accident?
Well, I'm from Minnesota. We have nothing else to do but sit on our phone and figure things out. That's why we do Blind Abilities and Tech Ability Show. That's why we're here. I go to SSB, and they have the greatest TAs there, technical advisors, Jesse being one of them.
There you go.
That's awesome. That's such a cool trick.
Well, yeah, the thing is, with the size that you have for storage, I mean, I remember deleting like 17 things just because I wanted an update, but I didn't have enough room.
They process the updates differently now.
I haven't done that stuff for a long time, like clean out.
I just want the clutter off my phone. Like I have 9 screens of apps, and because I had them organized at one point, and then
I do too.
God.
as soon as you stop, then you know.
Serena, I'm a 9-screen app holder myself.
Oh, I hate it though.
I only have 3, but the thing is, I have folders upon like every.
And I like folders.
have
it's just
folders
so
galore.
it's so tedious to just sit and do it. You know,
I
once
know.
it gets
It
that out of
is.
control.
It is.
What are some of your favorite series commands? Like one that I use every day, if not more. I schedule all my appointments. Like schedule appointment Thursday at 7:30 a.m. Title Talk with President Obama, or something like that.
You wish.
No, but I mean, and boom, you got it. It's there. It's done. I think that's one of the biggest things I use Siri for.
I use it for reminders
You use the Reminders app.
that I later ignore, and they stay on my lock screen for days.
So you review it, and there's like 8 things from like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, when you restart your phone and you have reminders you haven't checked off, it'll be like, you have 8 overdue reminders.
I do like reminders and stuff on occasion on my phone, but honestly, I don't use Siri all that much. Although on my watch, I use my timer a lot on my watch. Mm-hmm. And I just, set a timer for 15 minutes or whatever.
Or to set alarms, too.
I do that, right.
I did a shortcut, and you can do it from the Seeing AI app itself. You go into the settings there, and you can go down and you set up your shortcuts. So I change it to just say, read text. And boom, it opens up the...
short text.
Short text.
Yeah, short text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll start reading short text just by a command. And I like that a lot better rather than...
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
No. Hey, open Seeing AI. Now to get to the Siri shortcut for Seeing AI, we're going to single finger double tap on the menu button, which is located in the upper left-hand corner of your screen.
Menu button.
Now swipe on down till you hear Settings and single finger double tap.
Settings button.
From here, we'll swipe on down to Configure Siri Shortcuts.
Configure Siri Shortcuts button.
Single finger double tap, and let's see what VoiceOver tells us.
Select the activities which you wish to use with Siri Shortcuts. Heading.
Single finger swipe to the right.
Selected. Recognize short text.
Now, I will single finger double tap on this because I have previously changed what this says. Instead of recognize with short text, I changed it to just say read text, as you will hear.
Edit in Shortcuts button.
Now this button here, which we will not tap on, will allow you to bring this to Shortcuts to remodify the whole shortcut to do multiple things or to change it to your preference. But for what we're doing right here, we'll just swipe on pass, single finger swipe to the right.
Image. A multicolored ball on a white surface. Hey Siri. Red text. Text field.
And that's what I changed the command to.
Shortcut added. To use it, say this phrase to Siri. Change voice phrase button.
And I could tap here if I wanted to change it again.
Done button.
Single finger double tap.
Selected. Recognize short text.
Now from swiping left to right, we'll go to the list of different Siri shortcuts that you can use in the Seeing AI app. Which of course, you have the ability to change any one of these to the phrase that you would like to say to your particular Apple smart device.
Recognize document. Recognize product. Recognize person. Recognize currency. Recognize scene. Recognize world. Recognize color. Recognize handwriting. Recognize light. Recognize new person. Browse photos. Assign phrases to each activity to access it from Siri. You may choose custom phrases, such as what does this say, to recognize short text, or how much is this, to recognize currency.
Just a simple way for you to utilize and personalize the Siri shortcuts in the Seeing AI app, right in the settings section of the app. And that's a nice one because... boom,
I probably should use shortcuts more. The problem is I want to do really weird and nerdy things, but I can't. The apps don't seem to support what I want them to do with the shortcuts. So
we'll save that for after the show. We'll hear all about that. No, the shortcuts for some apps, if you go into their settings, you can find their Siri shortcuts that you can set up. And it's basically just apply. And it does all the work for you. You don't have to do anything.
Sure.
I just changed the name to,
Oh, yeah.
I might not, I didn't remember short text there. So I just say read text. Boom. It opens up and it starts reading. So that's one that I use.
Yeah.
I had a shortcut for the longest time that launched the Blind Abilities podcast in the podcast app.
Wow.
Yeah. All I had to do was say play Blind Abilities and it launched the most recent episode.
Well, there you go.
It's really weird because I do so many things just manually. I'm just so used to I go into this app for this, I go into that app for that. And I just do it with the touchscreen. I don't really do shortcuts all that often. And I probably should more.
Any of you watching Apple TV Plus?
I just watched Coda on Apple TV Plus.
That was a great show.
Amazing.
Oh.
I loved that movie. I loved how real it was and how they didn't sugarcoat, a child living in a house with parents with disabilities. I absolutely love that movie. I want to watch it again.
When she said, "Stop!" and she jumps out of the car and runs back for one more group hug.
Hey, don't spoil it.
What I don't even, I was going to say, I don't even know what that show is.
It's a movie, and CODA stands for Child of a Deaf Adult, and it's about a teenager that's growing up in a family where she's the only one in her family that has that's able to hear, and her mom, dad, and brother are all deaf. So it's just going through a smidgen of her life and what that's like. It's so good. It's really well done. And the audio description is done really well on it.
Yeah.
I might watch that. That sounds interesting. Yeah.
It is very
great.
good.
I know that's not where Jeff was going, but...
Oh, no. But I did watch it. And I would not hesitate to tell anybody to watch it. You
Yeah,
you gotta watch it. It's good.
I don't really keep up with what's on Apple TV. Like, I don't really hear about.
There's literally like a thing every 2 or 3 weeks. So it's not like it's like Netflix.
Yeah.
So don't feel, you're not super behind.
Well, coming up here is the morning show. That'll be coming back on for season
I'm so
2.
excited.
I love that series. I'm watching Ted Lasso. And that's good. And the
I
other
never got
one,
into that one.
really?
My husband loves it. I didn't get into it though.
Everybody raves about it, and I saw it in there, and I don't know. It could be interesting. Maybe I'll get around to it one day, but I just never really meh.
It's a comedy, but there's a warmth to it. Another one that's back on right now is C, and I like it, and it's really
That's
good.
a weird show, man.
I thought it was weird too. I watched the first episode and was just like, I can't get into it.
Season 2 just opens up. It's just, I thought you would really like it, Jesse, because it opens up like a Marvel thing. You got Jason Momoa on there, and now the other guy.
I've seen the first episode of season 2.
Yeah.
But I have a problem with it, though. I don't like that a lot of these series that are coming out now, they used to let you just binge a season at a time. Now they're making us pretend it's regular TV again and waiting a week at a time. And I'm impatient. I don't like
Apple
that.
TV Plus has always been like that. They would
don't like
release
that.
a couple of... There's pros and
impatient.
cons. Like when we were still working in the office, I loved watching the shows that only released once a week because we would talk about it that week.
Right.
And
Right.
all be in the same place, and it would just be more relevant for much longer. So I'm guessing when the morning show comes back, though, they usually do 2 episodes for that first drop, and then every Friday they drop the next one.
Yeah, I haven't watched the second episode of season 2 of C yet, but I'm like, I'm debating whether I want to watch it every week or just wait till it all comes out and then I'll just binge it all.
Oh, no. I look forward to Friday because that's when they all drop. And I get to watch them. But I take C to another spot because I want to get into it. So I'd like to turn it way up. And it was funny because later on that night, someone said, "Did someone turn up the bass on the subwoofer?" Oops. That was me.
The Apple TV Plus stuff does their mixing so amazing. Like,
oh man, I
it's
like it.
better than Netflix and Hulu and HBO. Like, it is so. Even on the morning show, you're like, oh my gosh, is there stuff behind me? You know, like that scene where Reese Witherspoon's at the protest in the first episode.
Oh yeah, and all those people.
And you hear the bottles being thrown. Oh, it's amazing.
And she goes off. Yeah, that show. I can't wait
so
for that
well.
to come back on.
I need to I might rewatch that. I tend to forget things that happened in previous seasons, especially when it's been like a year and a half. More than that, actually. It's been almost 2 years. The morning show.
You remember the beginning of this show, right?
Stop it.
Yeah, there was a car that went through the wall. Yeah.
Hey. Too soon, Jeff. Too soon.
Anybody here have the toggle turned on their phone for Wi-Fi calling?
I think I turned that off on mine because of the emergency services piece of things.
I have mine on because I live in a cement and steel bunker, apparently, and I get crap cell phone reception. I even have a Wi-Fi extender through Verizon because, like I said, because before they had Wi-Fi calling, I actually had to use that. I loved everything about the apartment when I moved in, and then I was starting to use my phone. I'm like, oh crap, my cell phone coverage sucks. And so I actually ended up having to quick research just so I can get cell signal.
What's neat about Wi-Fi calling is if the Wi-Fi is better than your cellular, then it'll opt for it. I myself don't like it because every once in a while I get some weird sounds and stuff like that. However, if you're in an urban area or if you're in a rural area, there's a big difference. Sometimes you don't want to be using Wi-Fi, especially if you're downtown and it connects up to what everybody in the mall is using.
Yeah.
You might not be good. But it's nice to know that setting is there. So if you're having trouble with your calls and some dropping and some catching, try it the other way. If you got it set up one way, try it the other way, vice versa.
I will say one thing I wish that they would improve regarding that, because I do like Wi-Fi calling. I wish they would handle handoff better. So like if I'm walking in, I'm out somewhere and I'm on the phone with my headset or something, switching from LTE or whatever to your Wi-Fi, a lot of times it'll drop your call because it doesn't seamlessly switch very well.
And it's so interesting that you say that. So the reason, going back to our fence thing, And I think I figured out why this happened. My husband was trying to call emergency services and it would not go through. And he has Wi-Fi calling turned on because at his office at work, he gets no reception.
Right.
So I was like, you should turn on Wi-Fi calling because I feel like I was just concerned that we wouldn't be able to reach him, in an emergency. Now I realize that that's probably why his call wouldn't go through, because he was on the edge of our property, which would have been just out of the Wi-Fi range.
Could very well be. It was trying to hop back and forth, and it just doesn't handle that well.
So that's just a precautionary thing, because that was a time when we really needed to have, to be able to make a phone call. And the other thing that does happen with Wi-Fi calling is, should you make an emergency call, but you're not able to say where you are, if you're on a Wi-Fi network, it's going to use your home address to send emergency services, because that's the address that you programmed in for it.
You mentioned emergency. Swordy Quest. Whoops, sorry, Charlie. That's funny. Sorry, Charlie. That's tuna, though. Swordy Quest actually released 5.3, and then just today he came out with an emergency update because something was broken.
I saw that.
And it's like, how many developers do that? Like, whoa, something's wrong with VoiceOver.
The Veil did. I was streaming The Veil a couple weekends ago, and on the second stream, I got to a point where there was like a game-breaking bug. I couldn't progress, and I messaged them on Twitter thinking, oh, okay, I'll hear back from them later that next week, and literally like not too long ago later, like, oh yeah, we got that reported. We're working on a bug for that. We probably will have it out tomorrow. And sure enough, they did. And I ended up finishing the game the next day.
Yeah. I just thought it was neat for Charlie to push something out there that fast, because, you don't see that. So it's great that some people that are doing the accessibility, they're high on accessibility, so they're doing it. But usually it doesn't take precedence that, it's a voiceover. We'll get to it. If we do it, we'll pass it along, But, times they are a-changing, it seems, a little bit.
Yeah.
Back to school. Serina, your boy's back to school, right?
Yeah, he's been back in school for about a month now.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
They start
Minnesota,
that
you guys
early?
are weird. Yeah, you guys are the only part of the country where you still go back like after Labor Day. Most people go back like mid-August now.
Wow, that's early.
The reason that some of them have started earlier is, rather than having these professional development days where it's like all these random Fridays all over the place, they group them together and give the kids a longer block of time off, which then in turn gives staff more time to actually get some concentrated training done. And then the staff also gets a little bit of time off too.
Huh.
And then everyone's usually out. No one's usually out usually right before Memorial Day, but at the latest, it's that week of Memorial Day, everyone's done. No one goes to school in June here.
Here in friendly Minnesota, we'd always have these snow days we'd have to make up or something like that. So sometimes it fluctuated just a little bit. But
kids don't get snow days anymore.
Yeah.
They get e-learning days now.
But they do go back to school, and some of the things that I remember is, here's my tip. My tip is, when I was taking notes in school, college especially, I would put an asterisk, especially like when the teacher says, and this will probably be on the test, and start talking about something, bang, there went an asterisk. So when I would study for a test, I would do that search for the asterisk, and
so
bang.
Funny.
There you go.
Or if there was definitions or something, I'd put 2 asterisks, or, just some type of little indicator.
Smart.
Well, instead of trying to search for a word, I just look for that.
Just remember not to have your punctuation level of your screen reader set too low.
Yeah. It was kind of neat. I was back then, I was using the Notetakers and stuff like that, as we go through the different changes of stuff. We didn't have the computers like they had today. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We did, but gosh, the storage capacity, everything, I don't know.
They were so heavy too, because I would use my laptop to take notes, and the battery life was horrible. I always had to sit on a certain part of the classroom so I could plug in. And then thinking back, I'm like, God, that laptop was so heavy.
My first laptop that I had in college was a Dell, and it was a brick, man. The thing was a tank.
If you're using a note taker, I had this one that had the big, long Velcro strip that when I open it, it'd go...
It's all loud.
And then I'd flip it over and I'd turn it on. I'd plug in the headphone right away, and then turn it
so
on.
So it's not loud.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing is, what I would do, I would get to class and I'd be outside and I'd get my note taker out and I'd open that Velcro before I walk into the classroom. I mean, these little things that I was remembering when I was talking about back to school, I was thinking about it and I was just thinking, oh, that was annoying. The other thing is, I hate sitting there while I'm taking notes and trying to learn how to do something. Where's line feed? Where's down, or something. So practice that stuff. Go home and practice. Find some help. Like Jesse, you working at SSB, you probably get lots of people asking how to use a new device.
I do a lot of assistive technology assessments with students, and this could be any time of the year, but especially during the school year at some point. And, depending on where they are, depending on what their schedule is like, we'll do the assessment, kind of figure out what technology they have, what technology might be useful, kind of work with the schools. If they're in high school, that the school is providing them some technology that they need to properly complete their, coursework assignments and things. But we have an on-staff technology trainer that people can work with, but then we also have third-party vendor trainers that are around the state and that can work with people one-on-one. And that's one of the things that I really do stress when I work with people doing assessments and things, is it's one thing to have the technology, but I think it's really, really important to, especially if you get the technology prior to starting classes or a job, make sure that you know your assistive technology, because there's a lot of times where students will say, this isn't accessible.
My goodness.
And it'll be, I want to say, it's well, no, just because you don't know how to do it does not mean that it's not accessible. So knowing your assistive technology, be it magnification, screen reader, whatever it is, can help you so much. And another recommendation that I would really also have is the more you can do, and especially, when you're in high school and you're getting closer to your senior year, try not to rely as much on your vision teacher or your aides or, your whatever you have maybe helping you. Because if you go off to college, the more that you can do independently, I get a handout in class and they want me to answer some questions, or we're going to do a group discussion in a few minutes. If you have a magnification app on your phone, let's say, or you have something like Seeing AI or Voice Dream Reader, Voice Dream Scanner, you don't have to wait for someone to process that information for you, because you can do it instantaneously yourself, and then that way you won't fall. Because that was the hardest thing back in our day. We didn't have all these portable devices. So if something came up that was unexpected, we were always kind of at a disadvantage, because we always had to wait for said materials to be, converted into large print or braille or audio or whatever it happened to be. But I always tell people technology can't solve everything, but it definitely helps. And if you know what tools you have in your kit and how to use them, you won't fall behind near as much as maybe we did back in the day.
Yeah, and as you go from high school to college, there's always the Disability Services Office. Mm-hmm. Yes, use them if you need to use them. Find out what they have to offer. But as you go through, wean yourself off of it. Become your own advocate. Know what you need. Know how to look up books. It's a little different looking up books today because we have so many services. We used to have to find the publisher. Then we had all this other stuff. But wean yourself off of it so you're not dependent upon that. Just like Jesse was saying when you're in high school. Wean yourself off. Become your own solution.
Be able to talk to your instructors. You can talk to them directly. Most of them are generally really approachable. One of the techniques that I would use is I would ask if they would often teach from a lot of PowerPoint presentations. I'd say, hey, would it be possible for you to email me that ahead of time? And then I don't have to worry about not being able to see it at the front of the room. I could just review it on my computer or on my tablet.
I had a meeting with one of my professors and went to his office and sat down, and he said, I didn't understand this visual thing. I thought you were stuck up or something because you'd never look at me. You wouldn't look at me. I'd be talking. But I suppose I was always looking close, but not at him, and I suppose that was, even though he didn't stumble through his lecture, he was thinking, wow, that Thompson kid. I didn't know, but it was neat to break the ice, open up that door to communication with the professor, because then there begins the conversation.
Absolutely.
Serina, any tips for going back to school?
I was just thinking through this because it's along the lines of what you said from that transition from high school to college. And there's a big difference in what accommodations and in some cases modifications you can get when you're in an entitlement situation, which is the K-12 system, and an eligibility-based system, which would be, most adult systems. And in some cases, you might have had your curriculum completely modified. And by modified, I mean maybe you had extra time to complete an assignment, not extra time to take a test, but extra time to complete an assignment. Or you had to, maybe the rest of the class had to do 10 pages and you had to do 7 or 8. And in college, that doesn't happen. You'll get extra time to take your test, with some accommodations, but you will not get extra time to complete an assignment. It's just not how it works in college.
Nope, it's all on your responsibility, absolutely. And that's definitely a different change.
It's a big adjustment. And mom and dad can't be your advocate in college. Doesn't work that way. So you got to stand on your own.
Your disability services counselor cannot go to work with you.
Yeah. One thing that I would say, whether you're on Android or iOS, but especially if you're on iOS, I absolutely love that version of Voice Dream Reader. I recommend that to everybody because it's just so versatile. It does so many things. Now that they've had iCloud support and kind of the iCloud sync.
Doesn't it connect to Google Drive too?
Oh, yeah, but I mean, like, if you have, let's say, a phone and a tablet, like, if you turn the iCloud sync on, whenever you make reading progress or you add a book or delete a book, it just automatically synchronizes. And now that it has the Voice Dream scanner built right in, you can...
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the update has... You can not only capture paper, but let's say you get these PDF files emailed to you that are those horrible images.
Yes.
You can do those independently because you can... just zap them or share them right into Voice Dream Reader, and it'll OCR them right there for you. I mean, that app is just, it's so good. Shout out to my boy Winston.
I'm going to have to look at that app again.
Steroids.
Winston Chen. Cool dude.
Windows 11. Is this been a long... It started early this summer, didn't it, to talk about it?
Yes, I have mixed thoughts on this because they're saying the release date is going to start rolling out on October 5th.
I saw that. That's so soon.
When I look at it, it seems like it's pretty solid, and I think that Windows 11 is actually going to be pretty decent overall. I haven't really heard a lot of complaints about like the functionality or the look or the stability. I haven't heard too many bad things around the Twitter sphere or the internet about that. But the main thing, well, and I don't know where Microsoft seems to really kind of be dropping the ball, is system specs wise, you can run this thing. Like if you can run Windows 10, you should technically be able to run it on pretty much anything. I mean, 4 gigs of RAM and 1 gigahertz processor. I mean, who has that anymore?
Jeez.
But the thing is that, like, I'm not even sure that I can run it on my modern Core i7 desktop because it's just an old enough generation where they are requiring these little secure module chips that kind of encrypt things, and like it's a hardware encryption sort of a thing for security. And unless you have a machine that's like 4 years or so, give or take, like an 8th gen, possibly they're looking at 7th gen Intel chips and things like that. Unless you have these hardware chips in there, like you're not technically officially going to be able to run it. Now, the other thing they've been saying the last week or two, is that, oh, well, you can't do it through the official channel. Like you're not going to get Windows, you can't just go to Windows Update and grab Windows if you don't meet that secure chip requirement. But you can, if you get an ISO, you can, I guess, install it through that. You can download the ISO and then install it from there. But then the problem, I wish they wouldn't have even said that, because then right after that, they go ahead and they say, well, you can do it and your machine will run it, but technically that version won't officially be supported. So if you run Windows 11 that way, to my understanding, your Windows Update, it seems like it may not work. So you're not going to get the security updates. You're not going to get all the different, like, hot fixes and stuff that they regularly come out with because it's not technically an official version. So unless, my reading into this is that unless you really have a machine that when they release their updated system checker to say, hey, everything is clear for you, and unless you have the security chip, I don't know that I would even want to play with trying to run Windows 11, because if you're not, I mean, what's the point of installing a new operating system if like Windows Update isn't going to work? So I think they really bungled. There's a lot of like mixed messaging and confusion. Like the operating system itself seems fine, but the whole can you not run it? Should you not? Oh, you can get the ISO and just get around it, but then you may not get the updates. And how many people are really going to understand that?
And that's basically what I've been getting out of it. It's just not, oh, they got a new update. No, there's so much, that comes with it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's why it's just been dragging on. Now October, another month, and we'll see how it goes. But
they're going to start rolling it out in October, but I think unless you have a really new machine, I think they're going to be rolling it over the next few months. So like your computer, even though they say October 5th, you may not even get it for, a month or two unless you jump through some hoops. If you want to be a really early adopter, you may not just see it appear in your Windows updates for a while because they're doing a kind of a tier.
Why don't they just do like Apple and just make it work, That's a stab. Sorry. The battle of the PC.
That reminds me, I was going to text you guys, on Monday, and then all that happened. I want us to set up a battle of the computers thing where we get an even amount of people on each side, maybe some neutral people to give the points to either side, and we have a battle of PC versus Apple.
Battle Royale. There we go.
Yeah. Me and Jesse can take you guys on. I know we can.
Oh, you're a Windows person too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I've used both. I'm not giving away all my reasons because,
Right.
but
Right.
I'm much more efficient on Windows for many reasons.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Windows has its perks, especially if someone is looking to go into the workforce. I highly recommend someone to know JAWS or to NVDA, but mostly JAWS and Windows platform programs, especially, if you can learn Excel and if you can learn Word real good, PowerPoint, you're off and running in this world of employment.
I would argue, though, Word and Excel, that is definitely a key skill, but a lot more places are kind of switching to this whole Google suite thing.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Our state, we still all have licenses for Word, PowerPoint, all that on our computer, but I do almost everything in Google Docs, slides, and all that. The only thing that's kind of weird, and it could have gotten improved by now, is I don't present in Google Slides. I download it as a PowerPoint and present in PowerPoint because of the speaker's notes and all that. It's just much easier.
I've never actually used slides. I've really only used Google Docs.
It's surprisingly accessible.
I've not done much with Sheets, and I've not done really anything in slides.
Sheets, I use Sheets personally to organize different things that I do on the side. And I think Sheets is far easier to use than Excel. And
Interesting.
Mainly because in the Google Doc and the Google ecosystem, you can just search them. And I know you can do this in the Office suite too, but the search is just so much more robust in Google. Like you can hit Alt/ and just type in text color white, and you just hit enter and it'll change the text color to white.
Alt-Q. Alt-Q
Yeah,
is
it is
your friend.
Alt-Q, but it's not as quick. So you start typing in Google and it starts autofilling what it thinks you were wanting to do. And then as soon as you hear what you want, you just hit enter and it does the command. Whereas in the Office suite, you hit Alt-Q, you have to search, then hit enter, then go through this ribbon to find what you know.
Oh, no, you don't. You can just start typing and you can arrow down now.
Okay. So then it could be the version that we have at work.
Yeah, I'm running
different.
365 at home, and you can totally just start typing.
My point is, you don't see too many people using Keynote on their Mac to give a presentation with accessibility.
Right.
Numbers, I use numbers for an invoice or something of that nature, but it's the same format, the same invoice I've been using for 5 years or something. You know what I mean? I don't go in there and recreate. This was a one-time, then I just change the dates and change numbers or something. Yeah, I have a template. I do not go in there to create because the accessibility, and you can't find anything out there for it.
It's shocking how inaccessible it is.
Yeah, I would say a huge percentage, I'm going to use the 90%, I'm making this number up, but I would say out of all the companies out there, the databases, the platforms that they're using, it's usually Microsoft-based when you're going into companies. And there you go. And when you're talking about VRs or state services, there's usually someone in the employment department or something, or a technician that can script for JAWS and write these scripts to help out when you come to in a database and can't access a certain button. Which is becoming...
Actually, I don't know, Jesse, you probably have an opinion on this. I think JAWS scripting is going to become a thing that is needed a lot less and less because I'm trying to think of the apps that we use for work. Even our case management system is web-based now. So there's no scripting that's happening there. It's
Yeah, everything is going web-based, but there are some that they're not using any industry-wide platform. They like hack together their own sort of web UI for whatever database they're using, and it's like there was like no accessibility thought put into that whatsoever, and it's like, even though it's on the internet, it's a complete mess. And so we have had even web-based tools in job sites where we've had to have scripting come in. And
here's the tricky thing, though. As soon as they put it on the web like that, they're then they open themselves up to some significant vulnerabilities when it comes to the web content accessibility guidelines and the potential.
Well, I mean, a lot of them could be they're web-based, but they're intranet. They're not out to the public. They're just like their own private intranet.
It still would have to follow the guidelines. Yeah.
No, I hear what you're saying, though.
I really think it's better than what we've had over the last 10 years. It's headed in the right direction where when it becomes web-based, these companies, the awareness of being inclusive, being accessible is getting better. But there's not too many people out there using a Mac in this capacity at these companies. You're going to...
No.
And your note taker is not going to be used at that company to log into their... So people who go through high school and college using note taker all the way through, and even if you got one that does run a version of, whatever is in there, it's not going to get you in the door of a company when you want to be productive.
I sort of struggle with this as an AT specialist. We definitely want to offer the, freedom of choice or informed choice, as they call it. But unless they personally ask me, like, what are your thoughts on X? When I do assessments with students, I kind of ask them what kind of field they're interested in long term. What are you going to go to school for? What would you like to do? And I will say that if you're in an office environment, there's a high probability chance that you will work in a Windows environment. You can probably still use a Mac in school and be fine for the most part, unless you have specific courses that need certain Mac or PC software. But eventually, if you are looking at some kind of a professional degree or a professional job where you're in an office setting, that maybe, 85, 90% of jobs are probably going to be in a Windows environment. And when you mentioned like the note takers, I mean, personally, I don't really like any of the traditional style note takers, like the, your Braille Note, Braille Sense sort of things. I'm not into those very much, but what I really do love,
I would say they're personal devices that you use to and from work, at home. It's a good note taker.
But then it's hard to justify from a VR perspective. Like if you need it for school or for job, well, we're not going to pay $6,000, let's say, for a device that you're using for personal use. That's not...
Exactly.
But, what I do like, though, is, I ask the people, well, you use a note taker. What do you do on the note taker? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, well, I take notes and I write little things down and I read things. And I said, well, how do you do your email? How do you do I use my phone or I use my computer. I'm like, well, then, honestly, what you need is these new types of smart Braille displays, be it something like the Mantis here that I'm touching right here on my desk, or the Brilliant, or the new Focus displays that have, you can take notes in them, but you're not going to write a professionally formatted document. But in a pinch, you don't have to worry about pairing it to another device just to take down a phone number or even write notes in class.
And you got the Braille.
And you have the Braille, absolutely, which is the most important piece.
It augments your learning by having the Braille there, and that's a whole nother topic.
Oh, no, absolutely. I don't discount Braille at all. If you're a Braille reader, I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm not sold on the note takers, but Braille displays, be it QWERTY or Perkins, they're great.
I do like the Mantis. You got the regular QWERTY keyboard sitting right there, and then you got the Braille, and you have the note taker thing. And the price through APH is attainable. I'm not going to say it's cheap. I'm going to say it's attainable, as compared to what the Braille 40 went through for years ago, and stuff that we get in today is doing a lot more for it.
Well, I have a question for you, Jesse, because as you were talking, I was just thinking through how Colorado does things.
No, yeah.
And
Go ahead.
like you said some keywords there, like informed choice. Like everyone that's in VR land knows that, that's a key thing. But we also know that sometimes informed choice doesn't mean that there's more than one choice. So here's how it works with Colorado. Like, let's say, and this has happened before. We've had clients very upset about this sometimes, but these are taxpayer dollars that we're using, and we have to choose wisely.
And it's employment goal oriented.
Exactly.
That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had some that are like, I want a MacBook Pro, blah, 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 the $2,700 device. And we'll say, no, we think it's necessary for you to have this Windows device that even with JAWS will give it, let's say they buy the $1,000, perpetual license, still $1,800. And that's if it's a top of the line laptop,
Oh yeah, you can get a heck of a laptop for under $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. But what we do, since they can have the informed choices, we'll say, which I have my opinions about it, but I understand why it's an option. Mm-hmm. They'll say, okay, well, the Windows computer would have cost us $1,800. You can pay the difference and we'll get you the Mac, but we're only paying this much towards it. I personally disagree with it because I feel like if they're going to be going into employment, them learning to use the Mac does not set them up for that success.
See, and you're touching on a very tricky point because I'm with you 100% because it really all depends on a per case basis because like what they're going to end up doing. And, it's like, well, yeah, I want this, but like if I know you're going to be walking into a certain type of environment, I'm like, well, this really isn't going to help you. There are times where we will do like, pay the difference thing. I think that has happened on occasion before, but it's really on a per case.
Like self-employment case or something like that. Or,
Right.
If someone's going to go into audio engineering, it's understandable that you may be into the Mac platform
totally
area.
Appropriate.
However, if you're going to get your electives and stuff done, your first 2 years of college, you should have PC. And it doesn't hurt to have both of these skill sets at your disposal.
Oh, no.
But we're not going to pay to train you on both. Like, I know that sounds horrible, but that's just not how it works.
Right. The thing is, we're just telling you that out there in the workplace, and we're talking about back to school, but out there in the workplace, the PC is king still in a sense of employment. And if you do get that job and you land it and you do always wanted the Mac, get the Mac, try it out. Or, but I've tried the Mac. I put Office 365 on there. It's different. It's not like running it on a PC, and it doesn't do everything that you want it to do. It's a tough row to hoe when you're trying to talk to Microsoft about accessibility on the Mac because it's VoiceOver, but it's their program. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, it's true. And when I'm explaining, I do give them a few examples of fields where the Mac is fairly prevalent, like audio, video production, some website design, some different things, or especially if you're going to go into mobile app development and developing coding. iOS apps, guess what? You kind of have to have an Apple device. You can't do that on Windows, I don't think, in order to use like Swift and all that kind of stuff. I think you have to be in a Mac environment. So there are use cases for that, but I try to make that really clear for people just to kind of, for the future.
Yeah, we could beat this one to the end because I think if you're going to go into coding, you should start out with the PC because that's where all the coding began, and then develop into your Mac, but that's further down the line as you go.
Yeah, there's different ways to look at it, but yeah.
Basically, a lot of kids are getting, like you said, they're getting the Google stuff, and they might even have some Android devices that the schools get for free. And that's always bugged me a little bit because they populate things in up to grade 12, and then they go to college, and some colleges use their own proprietary system where the Google doesn't work. A lot of them are starting to use it. Some works are
You know what, though? Chromebooks are coming very far in their accessibility. And
they are. They've gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other final skills that I will say, the best thing that you can do, whether you're high school or college, and because we've even had teachers, like people have said, well, can we have specific training on like say vision teachers or something? Can we have specific training on Moodle or Schoology or whatever? And I said, honestly, the best thing that somebody can do, because you don't know your college might use something completely different from what your high school uses, but essentially all of these learning management systems goes back to what you were saying earlier. Everything is going web-based, and all of these tools, all they are, unless you're using like a mobile app, they're websites.
Yep.
They're all websites. So if you can, more so, I would say if you're blind, whether if you're low vision, you can kind of you can cheat and use your vision and magnification a little bit. But especially if you're using keyboard navigation and screen reader, the best thing that you can do to be ready for whatever learning, because even when I was in school, we used multiple learning management systems throughout college. And the best thing that you can do is be able to navigate complex web pages. Go to like the full site of Amazon, go to some news sites, go to your favorite hobbies, like navigate some just really bizarre...
On the web? Amazon on the web? Come on, man.
Oh, I do it all the time.
I use it all the
app is a
time.
pain in the butt right now.
I use Amazon all the time on the web.
It's so accessible because you can go by heading so easily on there.
That's the best advice that I would have is if you can navigate, not just navigate, but if you know some of your quick nav keys, how to navigate tables, and if the first thing that you try doesn't work, if you know how to sort of problem solve your way, like, well, I didn't find it this way. What if I try this way? That will get you through any of these systems.
What's your favorite FN key? Your function key?
What do you mean?
Well, drop-down list, drop-down headings.
Oh, I don't use those.
You don't use them at all?
I don't use them either.
I use quick keys. I go by heading like H3 because you the 1, 2, and 3.
Yep, I use those
for which level of the heading you're going to. And I rarely will pull up a links list dialog or a headings list dialog. It's a waste of time.
I will use links list on occasion, especially if I know the website and I know the link and I just want to get there
because you could do
quick.
the first key navigation.
Right. I will do that.
That's what I do.
I don't use I don't use heading navigation or anything. I just use quick nav keys. And I guess wherever possible, I try to use like operating system level keys. And then if those don't work, then I pull in the screen reader keys, because the advantage to doing that is whether I'm using on the Windows side, let's say if I'm using Narrator or I'm using NVDA or JAWS.
It's universal.
It's universal. And then I can navigate whatever I want. And then for the parts that don't read or don't navigate correctly, then that's where your specific screen reader and your quick nav and your specific hotkeys for those come into play.
I use the find feature a lot, like on websites I'm familiar with. I'll either use find or I use place markers quite a bit as well.
Like on the Mac, I'll drop down for items and I'll type in LOG for login because I just want to get there. I don't want to go through the heading and then down to the menu and then over and something of that nature.
I usually just look for edit boxes.
I do that too.
Yeah. I just hit me for edit boxes.
I think once you navigate and you've been around the street a few times, you know, what works for me, what works for you guys, but we're using a shortcut. We're just not tabbing, arrowing, tabbing.
Oh, tab is the devil.
I see people do that and it drives me
I can't.
No, I'm like, yeah, you might be able to navigate that web page by next Christmas.
Take you an hour.
Yeah, so there's lots of things. And if you want to learn more about this stuff, check your VR out. They got trainers, and get a hold of some organizations or some groups of people, some friends, especially on like email lists.
Oh, yeah.
WhatsApp groups. So hunt around, and ask the questions, but don't try and fight it too long, and get a question answered. And as soon as you learn something, it's like, wow, I used to have to use 3 commands to get to this, you know? So it's really cool when you learn. I remember when Serina was learning the Google things, the Google Suite.
They call it Google Workspace now.
Oh, Workspace. It used to be Suite, right?
It did. They rebranded it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played in Workspace really yet, I don't think.
Well, it's just the name for all the Google stuff.
Yeah.
So it's Gmail, Calendar, yeah.
I still call it the Google Suite, I guess.
Yeah. It's the same stuff. They just call it Google Workspace now.
Oh, I thought you meant there was like something like, you know, Google Classroom, or I thought there was some Workspace special thingy.
No.
Oh, okay.
You did it after about 2 weeks. You didn't
I just
start
made
going
myself
back.
do
Yeah.
it. I never went back to Outlook ever again.
Like when I went to the Mac, my PC froze up and I just got a Mac and I just did it. And someone said, oh, are you going to put Windows on it? And I said, no, I'd be switching back right away because that was my go-to. You know, you use JAWS and everything for 13 years straight and it'd be easy to go back to it. However, I did not go back to it. I stuck with it and now I'm a really good Mac user. So, you know, but it works for me. What works for other people and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're doing a lot of audio in that, and that works perfectly for that. So, yeah.
Like we said, get an informed choice, you know, make an informed choice, learn what's out there.
And you got to think long term what your goals might end up being, because
affordability too. I mean, I used to say that
because
Macs
you have to be able to
would cost
sustain it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is kind of eventually when you're working in a VR system, vocational rehab system. You know, your
gotta
ultimate
stop.
goal, your ultimate goal is employment. And see,
Yep.
you know, I jokingly kind of say like, well, see, what happens is when you get a job, you get this thing called a paycheck, and you use that to buy things. Even if like you can't afford them this minute, you have to save things. Like I think people, I do think that a lot of, you know, like blind or vision impaired or even, you know, different things, like I think we're used to getting things paid for, and then like, oh, we got to pay for this ourselves now. Like that's what everybody has to do.
And next week, we'll be talking about finances. Accessible.
Don't get me on the
finance.
soapbox of, yeah.
Yeah, I've probably already ticked a lot of people off during this conversation.
Oh, me and you are very, very similar in the way that we think, because there's a lot of people that aren't happy about the annual license that Freedom Scientific does now for their products. And I'm like, I love it because it's predictable and it puts us on the same playing field as those that are cited. It's the same way other software is purchased. So why should ours be different?
Yeah.
Well, right.
And the main thing is the argument used to be, well, it comes with free software when you're talking Mac or, you know, the iPhone or stuff like that. But now with JAWS, the way it's sold today, I don't think it's that bad of a deal.
It's $95 a year. It's not bad.
On Windows, I switch between 2 or 3 different screen readers on a regular basis. I use NVDA primarily. I use JAWS some on my work machine, but I don't use JAWS on my personal machine just because I have way too many things in my audio and video chain that I don't want something screwed up for all the other things that I do. And with my vision and use of screen reader, I can get by with what I have. And, you know, if you're using Edge and Microsoft Office and things, narrator's gotten pretty darn okay. It's not bad. I set up a machine actually for a client today at work, and I did a lot of stuff just with narrator and magnifier.
That is a huge deal. Like there used to be a time when you'd get a new computer and you'd have to wait and have someone else do it for you. But the last 2 computers I bought myself, I set up with completely 100% on my own, including downloading JAWS and all that.
Oh yeah.
The voice is obnoxious, but you know.
I don't mind David, actually. I don't mind David.
There's a lot of choices, and I like having choices, and that's why when you start getting your paycheck, you get to make more choices. And that's the main thing. You know, what works for you? That's the bottom line. Good
conversation, though.
I did enjoy that.
I did, too.
Okay, we have Apple Mail on your iPhone. Okay? Do you guys group your messages?
So Serina does not have Apple Mail on her iPhone. She deleted it. I use the Gmail app. But when I did, and even in my Gmail app, I do have them threaded because it's way easier.
Wait a second. You what?
I deleted it.
Say it isn't so.
I like the Gmail app better because here's the reason. Like, there's things I don't like about the Gmail app. For example, when you try to reply to an email and this multi-list box comes up that's impossible to get to the beginning. You think you're at the beginning and then you've typed it all out and you realize you were at the end of it. But I like the smarts that it has where you can set it to alert you to things that it thinks you want to know are coming in. And the Apple Mail app is just not, it's either all or nothing with it.
Right.
Or you have to add people to your VIP, which is tedious. So that's why I use the Gmail, because all my stuff's through Gmail. Although you can put in it, I don't know if people realize this, but you don't have to have a Gmail address to put your email in the Gmail app. You can put anything. I don't
know if I did realize that because
you can.
I still, for my personal stuff, I still roll with a Gmail and a Hotmail.
I bet you could put Hotmail because when you go to add an account in the Gmail app, the first choice is Google, but then there's like multiple other choices like Yahoo and Outlook. And
I briefly looked at the Gmail app a long time ago, but it's been so long. Like for
it's great.
I mean, my personal phone and that, I use the regular mail app, but like within the last 6 months or a year or so now, on our work phones, everything goes through like our corporate or our statewide system and has to be set through Minute, which is a pain.
Like an exchange account.
Yeah, and we literally have to use the Outlook app now. We can't use we can't check our mail in the default mail app.
The Outlook app was weird to me. I used that for so long and it kept malfunctioning.
I've gotten used to it. It has weird quirks that I don't like, but I figured the mail out for the most part. The calendar is really bizarre though, because the way you have to flick up and down to like cycle days and stuff, it's really bizarre compared to the way that the iPhone calendar works. But I mean, I figured it out, but it's weird. And no, I do not thread messages. I can't. Sometimes it would be convenient, I think, but other times I'm old school. I just like it sequential.
I always want to unthread them so I can dissect it. Like if I didn't pay
Right.
attention and all of a sudden something catches my attention, I go in there and I'm on number 14 out of, 14 of them. And I thought, oh, what was the question here? And then you start... It's just trying to pull it apart, trying to separate it out so you can figure out what it is. I switch back and forth once in a while, but I would rather have them all separate because I can just arrow down to the next email, the previous email, and
That's
stuff
what
like
I
that.
do.
And I miss things.
Gosh, I love the threaded though.
I tried and I just can't do it. I'm like,
That's the same reason that I like it threaded though, is because
It's there.
that makes me not miss things.
Exactly.
Because it's all in one thing.
there's 8 things in this conversation and I miss one of the middle ones. I'm like, what are you talking about?
See, this is probably the difference too, because it's just a preference thing. Because like my coworkers, there's some they're like, I would never thread it, and I'm like, I couldn't live any other way because I like being able to just it makes the inbox count less because
It
it's
does.
Yes.
threaded.
And if you
And
delete
B,
it,
it's
there
just
goes 15. Bang.
Yes, they're all right. It's just it's so much easier, and then it's easier to go back and look at the conversation when they're threaded.
There's a lot of times where I don't want to delete. I don't want to delete the thread. I just want to delete some intermediate message where it was just saying somebody's like, thanks. And I'm like, I don't care about that message. I want
But
that
if it's
one
threaded,
gone.
then it's out of your sight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's collapsed.
That's why I switch back and forth. I unthread. You can unthread a topic. Say you're on one and there's 15 or 30
Sure.
in there. You can spread it out and it'll ring, just like an accordion,
Sure.
just spread it out. And then you can go through and delete and pick like that. But basically, when the thread is done, I thought it should have died like 6 emails ago. However,
Yes.
I just get rid of the whole thing. And that's what I like, having them threaded so I can delete 20, 30 at a crack. One delete
No,
button.
there are advantages.
Or
for
flag
sure.
the whole group of them, so it's
Yeah.
all in one spot.
But it's nice to be able to choose that. And if you want to try it, I'll put a little demo in here on how to turn that on and off because you might want to explore it. So in your iOS device, if you want to turn on mail threading, then you go into settings,
Settings.
go to mail,
Mail.
and go down to threading heading.
Threading. Heading.
And if you swipe on down, you'll get these commands.
Organized by
You
thread.
can turn it on
On.
or off,
Off.
then on.
On.
And then you have some more choices below here.
Collapse read messages. On. Most recent message on top. On. Complete threads. On. Muted thread action. Mark as read. Button.
But for the main part, once you got it turned on and you go into your mail and you see something that is threaded, it'll tell you the number of messages that are in the thread.
7 messages.
And you have a choice. You can expand it
Expand thread.
or you can collapse it.
Collapse thread.
And you can delete them all at once.
Delete thread. 7 messages.
So be sure your rotor is set for actions just by using the rotor gesture, which is like twisting a cap on your screen with 2 fingers. Do a twist. You'll find actions. Once you're there, by flicking up or down, you'll get all these options readily available for managing your threaded messages in your iOS Mail app. You state employees. You always put this paragraph at the end of your things.
That's why you use the rotor. So like if you change the rotor to messages when you're done reading the one and you don't want to read the, signature and the confidentiality statement, then you just swipe down and it'll go to the next thread
Oh,
or the
good.
next message in the thread. Yeah.
In the Apple Mail. Mm-hmm. Oh, good.
Messages is one of the features. Yeah.
I will include
But if you use
that.
the Gmail app, then it's smart enough to kind of redact the repetitive signatures so it's not in your way.
My biggest pet peeve of email, really quick, is when you have an ongoing conversation and somebody forwards you a message and it's like you have 18 different things of forwarded from this person and then message from blah blah, and there's like 18 different forwards before you get to the actual message. God, I hate that.
See, and I'm not sure if it, I'm sorry, I just love Gmail so much. Gmail doesn't that's the other thing. It when it's forwarded like that, it just, I don't know.
'Cause,
I've had things, I don't know what it does that's magical, but it doesn't seem to have
and I
the
haven't
29
played with
different
that
things.
because like Bob forwarded it to Jim and then Jim
It's-
forwarded
yeah.
to Sue and then by the time you get to it, it's like, okay, I got to go through
I know exactly what you
18 different
mean.
headers before I get to the message. And it's like, oh God, make it stop.
Oh, I mean, we can go on and on with this emails when someone actually forwards it again and everybody's address pops up like there's 65
yeah.
people in it.
That one, that's unavoidable. I hate that.
Yeah,
And
I
I
don't
hate
like
that.
that.
This is just my biggest pet peeve. People, please stop replying all just to say thank you. Please stop.
Holly frickin' Luya. Amen.
Do not reply all.
Second.
If you're going to send a group message, don't unless you
Well, I mean,
group
think
it
of, does
and
it
name
apply
it.
to the whole group or does it apply
Yeah.
just to the sender?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
really-
I mean, not in the email thing, but in messages. You ever get those messages that go 1-763-574-32, and then it goes through everybody's
just
phone
reads
numbers
forever.
because
Yeah.
they're not in your
Yeah.
contacts, so it doesn't. Yeah,
I get spam messages like that right now. It's kind of fun.
fun.
The spam is not. The
You
spam
mean
is getting worse.
FUN, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, for real, it's horrible. Like I got a little message because it popped up and was like, your voicemail box is 95% full. So I went through to delete them all, and it was all except for 2 messages were spam.
Oh, yeah. The other thing with email is like, please, people, put meaningful subjects in. Don't be like some really vague thing, like because when I'm
you don't
sifting
like
through
the
them
empty
later,
subject line? Because I love it when people do that.
empty subject or some really like vague thing. I'm like, dude,
Like
when I come
follow-up.
back to that, when I come back to that a week and a half later to check on something, I'm like, where the heck was that message? And then I'm like, oh,
You
it
can't
was
search
called
for
this.
it.
Yeah.
Yep. I hate that.
Yep.
That happened to me just this morning when I was trying to find something, and it was in this super vague email.
Welcome to the Tech Abilities Gripe Fest.
Hey, people can relate. I know people can relate to this because you've like had a conversation where you're like, oh, I'll come back to that, like that AppleViz newsletter. I'm going to read that later. And then you can't find it because you don't remember what it was called. And,
Right. Yep.
And I'm one, people probably hate my subject lines because when I was taking the Blind Leaders Development Program, we took a class on basically professional communication, and I took a lot of those tips. So like I'll put like review requested, action needed, delivery, signature requested, or something like that, and then the subject of like what it actually is. And
Oh, sure. Yep. Gotcha.
I think it helps keep people organized, like, oh,
Yeah.
I can look at that later.
But I mean,
know?
we can do it, but when other people don't, then it's still tricky.
Yeah.
On the Mail app on the iPhone, what I really like is no matter where you are, right at the top, there's a search. So if I want to find something coming from Serina, I can just go right up there and just start typing in Serina, and bang, I can get the first 2, or, it's just really cool to be able to get it that fast.
Yep.
And
A lot of them do have searches, and I use that quite a bit.
yeah.
Yeah, Gmail has it too.
Yep. I can see why using Gmail or Outlook or whatever you're using, especially when you're a PC user, because you're not stuck. You guys talk about these browsers that you're using, and they work for you. I'm back to that.
Anything that you can use that's browser based instead of software dependent is going to make things just a lot more flexible for you.
Yeah.
I keep thinking I should try to. I haven't played with Chrome on iOS. I don't know how well it works, but like especially
It works
It works
okay.
well.
the reason I was thinking about Chrome is because I've really gotten kind of lazy, and I'm like, I want all my bookmarks synced and my
That is such a good
passwords,
feature.
and I'm like,
yeah.
I can't remember anything anymore.
Because we have too many passwords in our lives now.
Oh God,
I
don't get
have,
me
like,
started.
I can't even. They keep adding new software that we use Box now and Adobe Sign, and like I have to reset my passwords all the time. We have 3 different versions of our case management system I can log into. I'm like, oh,
The problem is a lot of our work-related stuff. It's not that we have so many passwords, but we have a few.
you have
but
to
the
change
problem,
it every 30 days.
There's not enough words in the world.
Exactly. We have to change it so often that, to me, that makes things less secure because people aren't gonna actually make good passwords because they can't remember them all.
I just add a number to it each time.
I would never.
I have. I mean,
would never.
it is what it is. I have
I know.
I have one that will not let you use the last 999 passwords that you've used.
Wow.
I have no choice. Like, I'm not. If I do anything differently, I'm not going to remember it.
No.
You can't use the last 999 passwords that you use.
That's insane.
I kid you not. If you try to use one that you've used the last 9, and I've been with this state 11 years, so. And you change your password in that system about once every 45 days. My 11-year anniversary was just yesterday.
Mine was on January, in the middle of January. I'm over 11 years now too. Huzzah!
It's crazy.
I know, right?
Speaking of 11, look at the time.
Old man sleepy.
Oh, no, I'm in Central Time.
You'll
You're
catch,
in Mountain
you'll
Time.
catch it. You'll catch it when you edit.
Yeah, in an hour, you'll be going, oh, I know what he was talking about.
Well, full disclosure, when you were like, okay, it's going to be 9 p.m. Central, I was like, oh, God, I'm going to be so tired. Because I haven't been sleeping well the last couple of days. So I'm like, oh, man.
Oh, see, here's the thing is I'm wide awake now, but like last night, because I knew today was going to be one of the busiest days of the week, of course I couldn't fall asleep until like 1 o'clock.
Yep.
And then I woke up at like 5:30 this morning. So I had to do a bunch of things. I had a meeting and I went to work and worked on some stuff. And then I came home and like, screw this, I got to take a nap. So I'm wired now, but.
I didn't know the back to school. I thought it was going to be more of, for the students and stuff, but it was really interesting that we talked about our opinions on stuff that would be beneficial for students and everything. It was
I think it's a great part.
Twist.
I think that was a great conversation.
It's a little bit of a twist. So,
and I didn't even get on my soapbox about.
Oh, I could have gone on a few.
I have one. I think Jeff's heard it a few times about learning your accommodations first. It's not the employer's responsibility to teach you how to use your screen reader and all that fun stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hey.
Yay.
It's really different when after you leave the system and you look back at it and you meet other students, like when I was teaching, and you meet students and you just know what road they're headed down, and it's like it's just so interesting.
It's so hard.
And you don't want to
setting them up to fail.
I want to say it's a lot different for me to look at them today, but it's the same difference that someone else was looking at me doing it then. Mm-hmm. So it's just a repeat of everything, because you get so look at your son. Your age, when you were young, you didn't have those type of technology tools, access, the Googles, all these other devices. Just if you don't know an answer or something, or you're just inquisitive, you can just turn and ask something. This is where it's at today.
We had to look at encyclopedias.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was teaching at Blind Incorporated, and we had a meeting of staff and everything, and I said, we've come to a change here. It's 2000, and we're somewhere between 2005, 2010. It was probably 2008. And I said, it's different today. If you take a look around, the students that are coming in here had JAWS when they were 5 years old. They're walking in here and their devices are going, and they got 3,000 books in their, in their file system. They're typing Braille and reading Braille at 300 words a minute, but they never made a sandwich. We have to change the curriculum here a little bit.
That's so true. You are right. Oh my gosh.
And yet it's only because of the time frame that those kids had that accessible to them. It's changed. So I think when they talk about accessibility and inclusion and everything like that, if you can make stuff accessible, inclusion comes because you're going to use it. If it's accessible, someone's going to use it. They're going to tinker with it. They're going to play with it.
And what I always also say, whether it's technology or any skill, a lot of these places, they'll teach you something in a vacuum. Well, we're going to learn Braille and we're just going to give you some random words and sentences, or we're going to teach you JAWS or a screen reader in this sort of weird, for lack of a better word, vacuum, and like transferable skills, and just like really saying, no, let's apply this to like a real life task. Oh, okay, I'm a Vikings fan, so I'm going to use my screen reader skills, and I'm going to look up stats and scores and things about players or something.
Yeah, something that interests them.
Or if I'm going to read Braille, I should be getting some of my materials for other classes that I need to do that work anyway, and then use those Braille not just to read a random Braille sentence so that I have a Braille class, but then I'm actually getting work done that is actually applicable elsewhere in my life.
If anyone's ever heard me before, when I first started learning Braille, some girls stuck some letters on my locker. And so I lived an hour and a half away by transportation-wise, and I would read it. And they were so upset that they had to write it in grade 1, So I learned Braille. I got up to 45 words a minute in no time, because then they started doing these 8.5 by 11 sheets. And I was reading it, and then I had to write back. So I had to get my slate and stylus for an hour and a half on the way there.
Oh, God.
But you know what? I had an incentive. I wasn't reading from a book. I wasn't looking at that.
You were doing something you wanted to do.
You were text messaging before.
Yeah,
there you go.
In Braille.
Passing notes.
But it was really cool. It was a really neat way to do it. And the other thing is, my Braille teacher, she was really cool. She said, what was the last book you read? And I said, Indica Gold. She says, okay, let's order it. All of a sudden, they look like giant suitcases, hat boxes showed up in my door.
I remember them.
There's about 8 of them. And I start hauling these things in, and there it was. And I knew the story already because I read it. So I was just like going through. The other thing was like Dr. Seuss books or something. You kind of get what's coming up, So it was really cool to have some someone teach you in a way that you're just kind of like, you've done this before. So you're picking up on it and you're like riding a bike again in a way, but you're just reading differently. And it was really cool to be, I thought it was really cool. It was a code, you know, it was a code to me to getting that alphabet card. So anything that we've been saying today, I think do what works for you. Don't listen to us all the time. We have things that work for us. We're just sharing, and go home and practice, and good luck with school starting up and everything. And February 12th, we got it's February 12th. Wow.
What are you talking about?
September. I was thinking
September 14th.
I know the 14th in February is Valentine's Day, so I don't know where that came
February
from.
12th isn't even Valentine's Day, dude.
February 14th is. So I was thinking when I said February,
That
then I
is
said,
evil.
wait, it's 14th. Yeah.
It's not evil.
Yes, it is. When you're a bachelor.
Ooh, the Battle of the Valentines. All right.
So dramatic.
I'm not bitter.
September 14th, 2021. Tim Cook's back on the stage.
The Valentine's Day of the fall.
Oh.
What's September now? What?
September 14th, the Apple event. Tomorrow.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Noon, what you doing for lunch?
Jesse really doesn't care. He's like,
Well, no, I'm curious, but I don't know. We'll just see. We'll see what next episode, how we feel.
I just like seeing their productions. I think their productions are well done.
I used to live for these events, and now I'm just like,
Well, everything gets leaked. Like,
Yeah.
I already saw a video today. We got a major leak. We already know what the iPhone 14 is going to be. I'm like,
there's no way.
Yeah.
That's not, there's that. I know that's incorrect because Apple doesn't know what I mean, they might have a prototype in their head, but there's no way there's anything finalized for that far out. Come on now.
Maybe it's a new Apple car. There's rumors.
Oh, goodness. I did hear there's going to be some AirPods 3
Yeah.
coming out. I'll wait for the AirPod Pro 2s.
Yeah, they're
Or some smaller. You know, we talked about this. I would really, if they had like a more slim version of the AirPod Maxes, it might be like because those other ones are just so big.
Oh yeah,
if they weren't $500, like because I wanted.
They sound good. They do.
Yeah,
They
the problem
do
is
sound
I wanna.
good. There is. You're wearing a helmet.
I want to take advantage of the proprietary things, you know, like that, like the 3D sound and all the
spatial audio.
the spatial audio and the microphone stuff that the AirPods do. But I don't want to use AirPods because I don't like the ear thing. So if they would come out with like a more reasonable version of the headphones,
Yeah, if they could just get like a $350 version or something that's a little lighter,
$225.
a little less bulky.
$225.
that would be even better. Yes, $225 would be much more acceptable.
I'm kind of curious if these will, because I know I'm the weirdo that loves the big HomePods and everything, and now I have like several HomePod minis. But I wonder if the AirPod Maxes are going to kind of eventually be like the original HomePod, where it's like a few people had them that were, you know, big fan people, but by the most part, it wasn't well adopted.
Yeah. I was on this multi-year search for Bluetooth headphones, and I have different types of headphones for different things, and it's like I have so many headphones, it's ridiculous. But I finally found this like $35, $40 pair of headphones. Like if you want headphones, they're giant. Don't get me wrong, you would probably hate them because they are big, they're heavy, but you are not going to break them. They're like, one of my coworkers like, yeah, they're made in Russia, man. They're like, because they're like not the most elegant looking, but they're really functional. And God, if you want headphones that kick, you know, I think they kick more than like a Bose headset. I mean, these things are brutal, but they're great, and they're like $40, $35, $40. I love them.
It's just like the Bose sunglasses, you know, speakers and stuff like that. I have multiple types of different ways of listening to things, and I use them differently. I don't know. It's one of those things. When I'm in the studio, I wear this set of headphones, and I just bought new ear pad cups that go around them. I replaced the old ones, and I bought 2 sets of them because I have another pair that I decided, oh, the ear cups are bad. So I got a new set. Well, now I got 2 new cups. One has a cool pad and one has just a regular one, but they're restocked again and they're ready to go. Mm-hmm. I didn't know you could do that, but I did it for, $25 and bang, you know. But I have other headphones for this purpose, that purpose, for walking,
so do I.
or for sleeping or, whatever. I don't even know why I put headphones on for sleeping because I listen for about 8 minutes. It's probably less than that. And I don't even know what I listen to. I'm out.
I'm probably wearing headphones 15 hours a day of some kind.
All right. I want to thank all of you for listening. A big shout out to Lisa. Get well soon. Raqi, get on busy. Come on back, both of you. And from all of us here at the Blind Ability Studio, to you, your family, and friends, stay well, stay informed, and stay strong. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time, bye-bye.
And then cue our funky music, right?
And for more podcasts with the blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and give us a call at 612-367-6093. Leave us a message and let us know if we can put your voice on the next podcast. Drop us an email at info@blindabilities.com and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store and Google Play Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities. And from all of us here at Blind Abilities, through these challenging times, to you, your family, and friends, stay well, stay informed, and stay strong. I want to thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the realities
of blind abilities.
The realities
of blind abilities.
Blind abilities.